the left does a very good job at changing definitions. And this is an area where the definition of the word sex versus the definition of the word sexuality is critical.
Can you, first of all, just explain what is comprehensive sex education? How does it differ from the sex education that you or I may have had?
Yeah, so the left does a very good job at changing definitions. And this is an area where the definition of the word sex versus the definition of the word sexuality is critical. So I have to go back to 2006 when Planned Parenthood, the International Planned Parenthood Federation, actually came out with a guide called their Comprehensive Sexuality Education Guidelines. And in there, they have the definition of the word sexuality, which coincides at in that same year, 2006, the World Health Organization updated their definition of the word sexuality. So when we think of sex ed, that's what we used to call it in the past. It was biological anatomy, that's all you were learning. But sexuality has a different definition. It means sex, gender identity, gender expression, behaviors, attitudes, eroticism, pleasure. It has a paragraph-long definition. Mm-hmm. And so then that's when I had my aha moment. When I finally saw that, I said, okay, that's why they use the phrase comprehensive sexuality education in all of their curricula. They don't define what that means because they go back and they rest on the foundational documents of the International Planned Parenthood Federation. And so parents, when they initially look at a board agenda or a school curricula that says comprehensive sexuality education, they're like, oh, that's just sex ed. But they don't understand the new definition of the word sexuality. So then what ends up happening is when they go and actually review the curricula, and when they see, pornographic images, when they see a bunch of crazy stuff, they shake their head and they're like, how in the world? I thought this was sex ed, but they didn't realize that the definition of sexuality is different. So I always take parents right back to that. And in fact, on our website, under our videos tab, under protectourkidsnow.org, we created a very specific video for this, which is entitled, What Are Sexual Rights? Because after 2006, when the IPPF, International Planned Parenthood Federation, published their guidelines on comprehensive sexuality education, in 2008, they came out with their Sexual Rights Declaration. And those two are the two foundational documents upon which CSE rests on.
Thank you. Now that we have an understanding of what CSE is, comprehensive sexuality education, versus sex ed, like the normal sex ed that we all went through, how does this show up in the classroom?
What does it look like, sound like?
So that parents can understand kind of, hey, I can be on the lookout for this.
Yeah, so it's going to be different from state to state, but in most of your liberal states, what you have is you have to opt your children out of this. So by default, your children are automatically enrolled in this curriculum. If you don't find your opt-out form that usually gets sent in the mail with 50 other things, then your child by default is going to be in this class. The class is typically taught by your health teacher or your science teacher, one time in junior high and one more time in high school. And so
you should assume, if your kid's in public school, you should assume that they will go through this. You're gonna have to be kind of proactive as a parent to figure out, when is it happening? So I think what I'm hearing you say, George, is don't let your kid participate in this at all. It's not like a little sexuality education is going to be okay. You're advocating for, do whatever you can as a parent if your kid's in public school to opt out of this.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And again, comprehensive sexuality education comes to you through the lens of critical theory. So what do they care about? They care about providing sex ed in the new worldview, saying, well, we have all of these oppressive, underserved, underprivileged communities, which are the LGBTQ really communities. So now we have to teach, homosexuality. We have to teach anal sex. We have to teach, how these, either sexual orientations or gender identities are expressed, how they express their romanticism, how they express their sexual desires. And so that's how you end up seeing it played out. You start to see exercises like, well, let's learn how to put a condom on a banana. And that has happened in many school districts here in California as early as 6th or 5th grade. Going on into junior high, you will see, a lot of pornographic kind of depictions, because one of the things that happened way back in probably the 60s and 70s, I believe, is that the teachers union changed the obscenity laws in America to where they do not apply in the school system in an educational setting. So a teacher could show a student pornographic material. That same material, if I want to show it to a kid, on my street, I could be jailed for it. Mm-hmm. So this is how crazy, things have become.